trust me, these pesticides and this inorganic fertilizer that we think we're putting to our food to enhance production, all of it is what we are consuming. And so it gets back to us.
Welcome to Jos Green Centre. Could you just tell us your name, what you do here, and what the Jos Green Centre is all about?
Okay. My name is Bosan Kura, and I am a member, first and foremost, of Jos Green Centre by virtue of the roles and responsibilities. I coordinate the programming of the centre. So, Jos Green Centre began in 2014, 2015 thereabout, with a boot camp for young people hosted by Tier Fund Nigeria at the time. And that boot camp, out of that boot camp, which culminated in the Live Justly study, inspired young people to see how they can tackle justice issues in their immediate environment. And at that time, it was held in Jos, so Jos was a perfect place to begin these discussions and this initiative. So young people out of it decided to engage environmental justice around the metropolis, and it was so because there was a lot of litter around Jos. So out of that, these young people took these partners with collaboration with JMDB, of course, and made craft out of these partners. So we had shopping bags with plastic, with single-use plastic. We had bangles, we had many crafts that came out of those things. And as an offshoot of that also was a school drive where a couple of schools around Jos were engaged, and young people were taught how to reuse plastic and repurpose plastic as well. So out of that, gradually we were able to move to piloting projects around Jos. We piloted an electronic waste project in Tudunwada. We've piloted a climate smart agri project in Guarandok. We've done movement building work in Genta Gadabu area. We've done plastic recycling work with Anglo Jos. All of this again with the youth of Anglo Jos. And so JGC is youth focused and youth led. We're all young people in JGC, and we're first of all members of JGC.
Quite a lot you've achieved in just a period of 10 years. Really wonderful. So all your projects and your advocacy, is it in any way related to agriculture? Where does agriculture come into all this?
Okay, great.
Because we need to eat, and whatsoever we are doing, we try to see how we can provide food, and Farm Ferry is also about that.
Oh, great. Very great question, because our thematic areas cover both environmental sustainability and entrepreneurship. So social entrepreneurship, eco-entrepreneurship are part of our themes as a center for young people. And like you rightly said, we need to eat. And if we look back over the last few years with insurgency issues within the north, with climate issues, flooding and co in the south, in the middle and in the south, we've seen a drastic, even though there's quite a shift towards agriculture, but the rate of produce over time has reduced. And it's very evident, of course, with inflation rate for food being about 40% in Nigeria presently. And that's terrible. So maybe circling back to what we are doing here, in terms of environmental sustainability, in terms of taking care of our environment, we see that there has to be an investment in the environment. And since the environment, of course, the ground is the host for our food, is that way. If we're able to take care of that, then we can look towards better production, can look towards food security, as it were, effective and efficient food production. And so initiatives that I know a lot of farm practices are not sustainable, and I like that you had to point that out, because it might look like most people ask, we're just growing food, it's green, so how are we harming the environment? But we see stuff like poor water usage on farms. We see fertilizer usage on farms, artificial fertilizer.
As farmers, we need fertilizer to make the plants grow.
Yes.
And for farmers who are out there to, make profits,
absolutely,
they would need something to boost yield.
Absolutely.
And so when environmentalists like you begin to talk about the non-usage of fertilizer or maybe water, looking at the quality and all, it becomes a challenge to farmers.
Right, rightly so. But maybe we don't look at this as a farmer versus environmentalist kind of conversation. Let's look at this as we are all trying to make sure that the environment benefits, and we are also part of the environment. So if we deplete the soil and the soil is not able to produce as much food as we need, then it means we'll need more fertilizer, artificial fertilizer, and that would continue to degrade the soil and will not be able to give us the quality of food that we. And case in point, organic grown foods versus fertilizer grown food, artificial fertilizer grown foods. There's a stark difference in shelf life. Organic foods stay longer in shelf than conventional, traditional ways of farming. And so those are pain points for us as a whole, not just for farmers and not just for consumers, because I would like to buy my tomatoes and keep it for as long as I need to keep it so that I can use it over time. But since I can't do that, then that becomes an issue for me. So things like water, we see poor water usage. With the rate at which fresh water is depleting across the world, we're seeing that there has to be an efficient way to use water, especially as it has to be farming. And farming is one of the greatest ways in which we waste water. It's a fact. We waste so much fresh water that we need on the farm. Dehydration, evaporation that occurs on farms is one way we lose water. We see the use of pesticides and herbicides and all of those things. As much as we need to deal with pests, there are organic ways now of doing this.
That's the point that we are trying to get at now. Because a farmer could be watching you and it's like, how do I control these pests? And how do I get a fresh source of water? Or what kind of fertilizer do I use that does not harm the soil and still gives me the results and the yields that I want to maximize profits?
So we have and what we have generally around us is what we can use. When we harvest our crops that we, for example, corn stalk, we burn it. That is a very rich source of nutrition for our soil. Leaves, fresh leaves or dried leaves that we throw away, all of those are sources of enriching the soil in one way or the other. So we have things like compost, where you can compost your waste, your organic waste in your kitchen. Very easy, you just keep stacking it over time, and then its decomposition.
Does that give us the yield we want as farmers? Because for a farmer, most of them would have tried these things, and it's like, well, I've tried these organic ways and it gives me the yield quite okay. But then, because there is a target that a commercial farmer is looking at and is trying to hit that target, and these other inorganic be it manure or sprays and all to control pests, provides a quicker and more efficient way of handling these circumstances. So what should the farmer really do, putting these two aside, and what decision do you think really a farmer should take?
I know of farms, maybe I'll start with that. I know of farms who have gradually shifted to purely organic production. Purely organic. So it's not impossible. It's that we're not keen enough to make advances in that area, and I would say it's not just for the farmers, because we have research institutions around Jos or around Nigeria that could help us enhance the quality of organic fertilizer. So yes, I know there's I want profits, and I want yields. At the same time, I want to be organic, and I think maybe we don't think of it again as a battle. Let's look at it in the long term.
Environment should come first.
Environment comes first, and then trust me, these pesticides and this inorganic fertilizer that we think we're putting to our food to enhance production, all of it is what we are consuming. And so
it gets back
to us. So if you look at it in the long term, the money and the time you would have spent to make sure you have organic produce that you shortened with inorganic fertilizer, for example, you will spend that time, for example, in hospitals when you fall sick. And we're seeing a rising case of cancer, and people asking, where is this coming from? But we've seen an increase, of course, again in inorganic fertilizer usage on our farms of pesticide and co. And so some
of those illnesses are as a result of the usage. And for some people, they use it inappropriately.
That's inappropriately. And then for those, so we're not totally saying that we shouldn't consider it new, but we're saying we should do this sustainably, because at the end of the day, the food I eat, it satisfies me now, but if it causes harm in the long term, then it's going to be more hazardous than if I take my time and make sure that this is sustainably produced. So take out time. I would really encourage farmers, take out time to explore organic farming. Albeit you can't do this, you can't transition in one day, but make it a habit to gradually transition.
And your center, I believe, would advocate more for that.
Absolutely. And just to say also that by farming we can reduce the greenhouse gases. Through organic farming, we can reduce the rate at which greenhouse gases are released into the atmosphere, which affect the climate, making it warmer. And that's why we're seeing a more warm Jos now than it was in the last 20 years. That's why we're seeing rising water levels around coastal areas. People are now, flood is now, if there's a year in the last 10 years that it hasn't flooded, I can't remember. So all of those things are contributors, and farming is a great way to tackle climate change as it affects us.
So I think we could open another department under environmental justice, where we have food justice, so that we get quality food that is devoid of all these chemicals and not harmful to human beings.
Absolutely.
Okay, then, so where do the youths come in all this? Your organization is youth-centered, so pulling agriculture in this discussion and the environment, where do youths fall in?
The youth has so much strength, and when I say this, essentially I mean to just allude to the fact that in this conversation, if there's any group of people who will be drivers of change in, now generally speaking, every area in every fabric of our society, in Nigeria at least, it has to be young people, because they are full of strength, full of ideas, brilliant minds, especially as we see in Nigeria. And so coming down to farming, I think it's one aspect that we can have young people drive, and we have great innovations to begin to take advantage of. We have AI to take advantage of, to be able to enhance production of food in Nigeria. And 60% of Nigerians are young people. That's a staggering amount of young people in Nigeria. So imagine if 60% decide to make a shift in a particular direction. Let's say we decide to go organic farming. Imagine the amount of change that we will see across board. So I think it just pays in that young people are the strength of the society, given the age range, and given that we are much more than our parents were. And more than ever, it says that knowledge is now much more than it was. So we can deploy all of this, and we can enhance our agriculture.
So when I came in, I noticed, I'm not sure if it's your motto or your logo that talks about broken things or waste turned into, something useful.
Yes.
So could you just say something about that? What's that phrase?
Oh, okay. So for us, is broken things made whole.
Okay.
Because we understand that as a result of the fall in Genesis chapter 3, thereabout, in Genesis chapter 3, we've seen broken systems. Like I mentioned, the environment is just one of it. We have gender issues. There's political issues and governance issues. Injustices are rife in our society. And so when we say broken things made whole, is that for us individually, anything that we see literally broken, we're trying to mend it back together.
Agriculture gives us that two-way reflection to life, where you are sustaining the environment by growing plants, and also you are getting something to eat. So very. I think God planned it so perfectly, because like you said, God has commanded us to care for these plants.
Absolutely.
And I believe as farmers also, we must be sure that whatever we treat our plants with would not harm them nor the environment they thrive.
Absolutely.
They thrive in.
Absolutely.
It was really great discussing with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much for your time.
So Jos Green Centre again is a hub for young people. Please come please come around. And if you have innovations that need support, we are open to collaborate with you on those things. Our office is open. We have spaces. We have an executive space. We have a conference hall, conference room space to host your meetings. And for those who would want private areas, we have private offices for you to be able to hold your personal meetings or do your personal work, as it were. So we're very much open. Location, we're around Old Airport, opposite former Nitel building. It's a bit inconspicuous, but I'm sure you'd find your way.